Hey everyone, Colleen Patrick-Goudreau here. How is the connection? And we will continue. If not, I will restart it. Hi everybody, Colleen Patrick-Goudreau here. This is your time to ask any questions you have about veganism, animalism, not animalism, I don't even know what that is, animal protectionism, and anything related to living compassionately and healthfully. So a couple announcements before you ask your questions. Number one is we're having a giveaway again today. Michael McNeely won the new book by Christy Middleton called Meat Less, and we just sent that book off to him. And you can win a book as well. We're doing giveaways now every week. And in order to enter, to be eligible to win, all you need to do is go over to Animology Podcast on iTunes and leave a rating and review. And then just send us the snippet. You can just send a screenshot so that we can go check it out. And then you will be eligible to win. And this week, it's The Cheese Trap, a new book by Dr. Neil Barnard. I'm sure many of you have read Dr. Neil Barnard's work. The Cheese Trap, How Breaking a Surprising Addiction Will Help You Lose Weight, Gain Energy, and Get Healthy. So this is for you to win. So if you'd like to be eligible to win, go over to Animology Podcast on iTunes and leave a rating and review, and then just send us a little screenshot and you will be eligible to win. And then we will send you a book. It has to be for those in the United States. I won't be able to ship it elsewhere, but if you would like to enter to win and you're in the United States, this is the book that you could win. So number two, I am very serious. Hi everybody. Hello, hello. And I always love to hear where you're from. So where are you joining me from? I have been talking about holding the second annual, what we're calling Compassion in Action event this year. And it looks like we're going to do this event over the weekend of August 26th. So I want to hear from you to let me know if you're interested. And Tina, who's joining us as well, is actually joining us. Aren't you, Tina? Wait, Tina, are you the Tina who's joining us? Because do you have two last names? Because we have our Thailand trip coming up in October. And what we're going to announce at the end of the August event, the Compassion in Action event, is our next vegan CPG trip. So is it Tina who's joining us? Tina, I'm confused because I know you just sent me a picture of you with Christy. Yes, and I thought so. So do you also go by your other last name? Is it Atwell? Okay, good. I just want to make sure because I was pretty certain you were the one who was joining us. So Tina, for instance, is joining us for Thailand, our Thailand trip. And in 2018, we're thinking of doing Vietnam. So vegan in Vietnam, which is going to be pretty fabulous. And it includes going to Animals Asia Bear Sanctuary, the Moon Bear Sanctuary in Vietnam. It's going to be pretty special, and those who come to the event in August would get first dibs for that trip in 2018 to Vietnam. But of course, Tina's joining us for our 2017 trip to Thailand, which we opened up to those who had joined us for the event last year. So you just get a little bit of a advantage if you come to the event. So it's going to be a fabulous weekend. That's the main thing. And it's going to be about living compassionately, but also it's going to be on compassionate communication and framing our values and engaging politically. So a lot of the things you hear me talk about on these live broadcasts, a lot of the things you hear me talk about in my podcast, we're going to be covering that in the weekend. So called Compassion in Action. So it will be in Oakland, California, and it will be August 26th is what we're looking at. If I get enough response from you that you're interested, I'm going to go ahead with this. Originally, I was thinking of doing it in September, but I won't be able to do it then. So that's the second announcement. So stay tuned. Make sure you go to my website, ColleenPatrickGoudreau.com, and join the mailing list because that's where I'm announcing this all the time. And I want to hear from you. So we have Kenneth from Washington, D.C. Hello. And yes, Annie, I will be also, that's the last thing I wanted to announce. I'm leaving tomorrow for the East Coast. So I will be in New York. We're having a reception, just a meet and greet brunch at Peace Food Cafe, the downtown location, on Sunday between 12 and 2. And I'll be there and we'll just say hello to each other and enjoy some food with each other. And so that is on Sunday, April 2nd. coming up. Tina, how do we send interest for the August event? Well, you just letting me know here. I have also put it on Facebook below. You can also send an email to support@joyfulvegan.com. And we're just gauging interest. I've gotten a lot of interest from people who want to come to this event, but it was when I was going to do it in September. It shouldn't make that much of a difference. If you're interested, you're interested. And but August 26th, I've put a hold on a beautiful space here in Oakland. And I'd love you to come. It's gonna be really fabulous. I wouldn't do it if I didn't think this was gonna bring value to people. Believe me, it's a lot of work to put on an event, and it's one of the reasons I decided to not do the 2-day long event in September, but rather do a 1-day event. Although we're gonna do some special things on either end of it. It's going to be worth your while wherever you're coming from, and of course, I'm working with hotels to make sure you get special rates as well. But if you're local, of course, it's going to be a no-brainer. So hopefully you'll join us. Hello from Buenos Aires, Argentina. Hello, Carolina. And Nancy from Soyersville, Pennsylvania. Did I get that right? And Kenneth from DC, as we said. Annie, I'll see you on Sunday. And Gina, I already answered. It'll be in Oakland. And hello, Josie from Montreal. And Christine in Portland. And Victoria in Kansas, and Kelly just bought. Oh, you just buy the cheese trap. So again, if you're just joining us, you can win the cheese trap if you go over to Animology Podcast on iTunes and leave a rating and review, and then send me a little screenshot, or just let us know that the review is over there, and we can go take a look. Hello, Rosie from Phoenix, and Lynn from Longmont, Colorado, and Nikki, hello. And don't you absolutely love how everyone's from everywhere? Gina, hopefully I'll see you, Gina, in New York City. That's awesome. Fantastic. And hello, Debbie. So this is your time to ask any questions you have as we're saying hello to more folks. Natasha from Sydney. Allison, I should do it in Vancouver. Allison, it is enough work to do an event in my own backyard. Doing it in a completely different city, in a completely different country, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. If I had a team of people, I could just say, go do that event, and I'll show up. But I don't have a team of people. So at least right now I don't. And I don't think I ever will, to be honest. So I'd love your questions. I'm having a sip of tea, and then I am going to Millennium tonight. Of those who don't know, Millennium is a premier vegan restaurant. It used to be in San Francisco for like 20 years, but now it's in Oakland in my backyard. It's like 5 minutes from my house, which is pretty awesome. And my new neighbor and friend, we've become fast friends, which is pretty fabulous. She lives across the street. We're going to go to dinner tonight, and then tomorrow I get on a plane and I head to New Jersey and New York. Aloha, Amber. And Jacqueline said, hi, Colleen. Jacqueline from Nashville here. I wanted to ask whether the Dr. Furman multivitamin is the only supplement you take. I should say right now, I do love Dr. Furman. It's not that I don't. I've been taking Diva multivitamins, but same thing. They're both fantastic. So yes, it's the only multivitamin a multivitamin is the only supplement I take, along with, I do sometimes take a B12, just an extra B12, even though B12 is in the multivitamin. And I do take a DHA supplement also from Diva. I think Diva is very high quality. I like what they're doing over there. They're a little more affordable than Dr. Furman. I found him a little pricey, but I still stand by Dr. Furman's products. I think they're really quality. But I'm really not interested in supplements other than the multivitamin and the and making sure the multivitamin has the B12 and the vitamin D. One of the things I also appreciate about Dr. Furman is that he has iron-free multivitamins, because you really don't want to overdo it on iron. So that's one of the misconceptions, is that vegans can't get iron if they're not consuming animal products. Actually, it's the opposite. A lot of people who are consuming animals are getting way too much iron, and there's a real correlation between high consumption of iron from animal products and cancer. So it's not that you don't want to overdo these things. And so that's one of the reasons Dr. Furman and other people they make multivitamins that don't have iron in them. That's why. Christine, the tea that I drink is a green tea. I drink a variety of green teas. My favorite purveyor of teas, I have two. One is farleaves.com, and they ship to anywhere in the United States and, well, I mean, maybe the world, I don't know, but I'm not in the world. I'm only in the United States. The tea that I drink is, my favorite is called Purple Bamboo. I also like Cloud Mist. I also drink Dragonwell. I also drink Bilu Shun, which is a Chinese green. So I pretty much just drink green, and I like oolong as well. There's a Dongding, which is a Taiwanese oolong, which is my favorite as well. If you go to farleaves.com and if you decide to buy tea and you use the word Colleen and put the word Colleen in the coupon code, you will get 10% off. So they just have this kind of standing coupon code that for years that I'm able to pass along to you. So I love Far Leaves tea. Teance is another one that's really fabulous as well. Dragon Pearl, yeah, I love the green, Dragonwell, Dragon Pearl. Dragonwell is a little toasty. It has this kind of, it's toasted, it's roasted, so I like that for that reason. I like the Purple Bamboo because it's a little creamier, it's a little more buttery, same with the Cloud Mist. The Dongding is a little more like a jasmine, so it's a little more floral. So they all have different, textures and flavors, and I drink probably 4 to 6 cups of tea a day, to be really honest, because I do have 4 cups in the morning, and I know it sounds like a lot, but I have been doing that for years. You're welcome. You're welcome. What else do we have? We have Melissa says your skin always looks amazing. It glows. What do you use? A vegan product? Well, I don't know. Some of it is probably lighting, Melissa, to be really honest. I think lighting is everything. So I don't know if I would look the same if you saw me in person. However, as far as the products I use, there is one product that I use the Body Shop is pretty much the makeup I use. And I don't use makeup. It's more of, I don't use like a whole foundation and powder or anything like that. I just use kind of a, a bronzer I don't use, it's not a blush, I guess it's technically a bronzer. And then the Body Shop has a product that I even have difficulty finding on the website that I've talked about before. It's called a highlighter, and it does create like this little glow. It's really sweet, but I have trouble finding it on the website. When I go into Body Shop, the store, I find it. And even the clerks there are often like, oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. I don't know why it's not more known. So the highlighter is one of the things I use. I also use Arbonne products, and I also use 100% Pure. So those are the ones that I use. The Arbonne ones that I've been using have been like the lotions and things like that. I really like their facial creams, but 100% Pure is really fun as well. So thank you. And maybe the reason my skin glows is because of the tea that I drink. And I do think there's really something to be said for, and I talk about this in Color Me Vegan, when you're consuming a lot of vegetables and fruits and plant foods, you literally are changing the color of your skin. It's a pigment in these plant foods that does affect the color of your skin. You can tell if someone's eating a lot of carotenoids, for instance, because their skin is a little more on the glowy side, it's not a word, but it tends to glow more. It has a little more orange pigment to it, versus someone who's really eating a lot of animal products. They're not taking in all of the phytochemicals. And that's what I talk about in Color Me Vegan, are all of the colors that are in the foods are affecting our organs in very specific ways. And the largest organ in our body is our skin. So there's no doubt in my mind that the diet that I eat, it affects my skin. And I'm sure you've found that as well. So again, guys, if you're just joining us and you want to win a copy of Dr. Neil Barnard's new book, The Cheese Trap, how breaking a surprising addiction will help you lose weight. I was hoping I could read it on the screen. Gain energy and get healthy. You just have to go over to Animology Podcast over at iTunes and just leave a rating and review. And just let us know. It's support@joyfulvegan.com, or just go to my website and go to the contact page and let us know, and we'll go check out the review, and you'll be eligible to win this book. Michael McNeely just won a copy of Christy Middleton's Meatless. So if you'd like to be eligible, just go do that. Chris says, have you ever been to Boston? I'm taking a trip there this weekend for the first time. And I'm excited to try the vegan food there in Salem. And in Salem, they have more options than I thought they would. I grew up in New Jersey, Chris, so I've spent a lot of time in what is this? What is this doing? I spent a lot of time in Boston and a lot of time in New England, Salem as well. I haven't been there in a few years, but I've always found it to be growing in its options. So it's really exciting to hear that it's getting even better. You probably know better than I do, since it's been a few years since I've been there, about what's going on there. But that's really exciting to hear that it's growing in its options. The last time I was there may have been even in Salem for an event I was doing. I'm trying to remember what that was. It was quite a few years ago. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I think before that it was, yeah, you probably know more than me, but let me know, keep me posted. Let me know if there's anything I should pass on to folks and have a really good time. That's awesome. And Carolina, I have been vegan for 3 months now. Fantastic. And I am not aware that vegan clothing, I am not that aware of vegan clothing, which is a good brand of vegan Snickers shoes. I was about to buy a pair today and I didn't know what to look for. Thank you. Good question, Carolina. So one of the things when you're buying shoes is, of course, the main thing you'd find in shoes is going to be leather. You'll also find, depending on the season, if you're in Argentina, you probably don't have a lot of, well, I mean, forgive me if I'm being naive, but I imagine there's more warm weather clothes. Obviously here, where it gets colder in the wintertime, you'd notice a lot more shoes and clothing with cashmere, with wool, during the warmer months. And so I see that in shoes as well. But what you're really going to find is leather. So what you want to look for is an explicit tag indication that says leather or animal products, and or look for an explicit tag or label that says man-made materials, because that's going to indicate that it's man-made. Now, what I find in shoes sometimes is the shoe might look like it's not made of animal skin, but then you look and it says, you know, the soles or the top is made of leather. So that's what you're looking for. Certainly you can find man-made shoes in most shoe stores, in most department stores, in, you know, kind of really any shoe store, and period. So just look around. But of course there are then vegan stores as well. I'm not sure what's available in Argentina, but you can find them. And of course in the warmer weathers, I mean, I wear flip-flops pretty much all the time, but I went to the Gap yesterday and, you know, there are plenty of flip-flops that have leather top, but some didn't. So it's just a matter of looking. Does that help? Does that help a little bit? Gina says, I love my dog like my child. Hold on, I have to take a sip of tea. It's going to get cold. And the worst thing is when tea gets cold. Hold on. There's a spider crawling, but I'll wait until I'm off to invite him outside, to escort him outside. Gina says, I love my dog like my child and wanted to know what vegans do about bones, rawhides, and ways to disguise pills he needs, like cheese and deli meat. I have switched him to vegan food and he loves it, but I just feel bad to take away bones. Do you have friends that share these same... it didn't finish, but I get the idea. Yeah, I mean, I definitely have a lot of friends who have vegan dogs, and they, you know, they don't use bones. They've gotten off of rawhide. I definitely think your dog would be just as happy with all the different kinds of non-animal product things to chew on. They're just chew toys. I mean, that's really what it is finding something that has the chew feature that doesn't have animal products. So I would ask the pet stores that you go to, ask what they think. And as far as wrapping pills, I know there are pill pockets for cats. I wonder if there are pill pockets for dogs as well, but it's just the idea is that it's a little treat that has a hole in the middle and then you just stick the pill in there. So if that's an issue, you can do that as well. And yeah, I mean, once they have their favorite treats, you can absolutely just wrap up a pill in the treats. Hopefully you're not having to pill your dog, but in the case that you do, I wonder if pill pockets exist for dogs. Maybe some other people can chime in. Feel free to add comments, folks. Paige says, you're awesome. Love all vegans. Nancy says, A few weeks ago, I put beet tops in some soil. I've noticed my cheeks are like rosy. I wonder, I just keep picking the greens and eating every time I walk by. Salad on the run. No, I love that, Nancy. Absolutely. Absolutely. That makes a huge difference. Absolutely. And Carolina says you're transitioning towards autumn. So yeah, so just take a look. Just look. There's also a symbol you can tell on some shoes if they don't explicitly say man-made material or leather. This is the case. I would imagine this is pretty universal, but there are little symbols on the shoes. I have to take a sip, excuse me. There are symbols on the shoes. If it's a triangle, it means man-made product. It's just like I'm sorry, did I say triangle? It's like well, it's two triangles. What's that called? What's that called? Geometry wasn't my strong suit. What's it called when it's like a triangle on top of a triangle? Help me out here. It's man-made. If it shows a little picture of like a rawhide, which is awful, of, you know, like a skin of a cow that's been ripped off the body, it's basically what it looks like, right? You know, one of those rawhide rugs, that indicates that it's the skin of an animal. This little spider is just taunting me. So that's another way to tell if it doesn't say it explicitly. Dave says, hi, Colleen, you made me vegan, and I love you for it. My boyfriend and I listen to your podcast, and I tell people about you constantly. Well, you made yourself vegan, Dave, and thank you. I am honored and grateful to be part of your journey and to be part of anybody's journey, and we're all part of each other's journey, and thank you for that. Thank you for being open-minded to come to the podcast and to hear what I had to say. So you did it, and thank you for allowing me to be a conduit for this information. I appreciate it. You're welcome, Carolina, and thank you for spreading the word, Dave. Lindsay says, when are you coming to Dan Diego? I don't know where Dan Diego is. I don't know. Where's that? I'm just kidding. San Diego, I assume, and you don't have to change that. I don't have any plans just yet. I will be in LA. For those of you who have, for whom it's not on your radar, there is an animal law conference symposium coming up in May, and I will be going to LA for that. It's ALDF, the Animal Legal Defense Fund, is having a law symposium on legal issues, especially around wildlife. And I'm very interested in that. I love the folks at ALDF. So there are still tickets available. Yesterday when I registered, it says that there were 39 probably now, but there might be even fewer. So if you're interested, I will be going there. But I do, Lindsay, hope to come to San Diego for an event or something of the kind. I just don't have anything right now. I had a conversation with my agent, my literary agent. Well, he's not mine officially yet, but we had another conversation today about my book, Animology, and we're in talks. So the hope is that I will get a contract for my next book, which means that it will include a book tour when it comes time, when the book comes out. But that's not for a while, because first I have to get an agent. But we're in talks, which is really encouraging. Debbie says Vegan Chic website has really cute shoes and Snickers. Some can be a little pricey, but I wait for sales and can find good deals. Thanks for that, Debbie. Vegan butter is great for pills, and I think someone said peanut butter as well. And Allison confirmed there are pill pockets for dogs. Yep. Peanut butter and tofu hot dogs are great for pills. Fantastic. Krista also said she uses peanut butter when giving her dogs pills. Diamond. Thank you. I couldn't think of the diamond. I swear my tea is not spiked. I couldn't think. Diamond. Wow. Sometimes, you just can't hold all that in your brain. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Lozenge. You're welcome. Have you been following the By Chloe split? It's too bad, but interesting the way the restaurant business works versus ethics. Yeah, Megan. It's so hard. I mean, it's just really hard. I have nothing to say about any decision Chloe made. She made the best decision at the time with the people that seemed like the right people to get into business with. People get screwed all the time, and it's not because they did anything wrong. The main thing when you go through an experience that Chloe is going through is that you learn from it. I had my own nightmare experience several years ago that was incredibly painful and incredibly shocking. It was a business situation. And you're just shocked that people you once trusted basically screw you because of money. I mean, it's just the way it is. And you have to understand that when you are getting in bed with anybody related to a business decision, the number one reason they're getting into a business situation with you is because there's potential profit to be made. There's nothing wrong with that from a philosophical perspective. That's called capitalism. I don't have a philosophical issue with that. But you have to know it's a risk. And the main thing is that you learn from the experience you have. And hopefully the main thing is that you don't make the same mistake again. But she's very young and she's resilient and she's talented and she's incredible and she's principled and she's going to be okay. But yeah, it's terrible. I mean, it's just awful. And I really feel for her. I don't know all the details, but I've heard enough to know that that I'm really sorry for her. Mostly because I think as people who do this work because we care so much about the values behind the work, it's not to say that we're naive, but there is a little bit of naivete because we're not doing it for the money. We should all make money doing good work. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you're doing it out of principles, and then you partner with someone because you think, they also have the same principles. I think the thing that's so hard is that you just feel you take it so personally. It feels so personal, and I think that's the hardest thing. It feels so personal, and it's hard to step back and say this has nothing to do with me. This has everything to do with their own desire for success or profit. I want to say greed, but that sounds a little too judgmental because I don't know those people either. And I don't know the deal. I don't know what deal they made. I know the situation that I had that was really painful. I had made a very innocent error, but nonetheless, I learned a lot from it. And I put a lot of systems in place today because of that error to hopefully prevent me from ever doing it again. Lessons and gifts. That's all we get. Allison says, what are your thoughts about police dogs and other service animals? That's a good question, Allison. I think it's one of those situations where I don't think everything is black and white. I have fans who are blind, and I've met them at events who have service dogs with them. And who the hell am I to tell them that they shouldn't do that? They're vegan, they are principled, they're compassionate, and they can't see. And the animals who help them are companions in every sense of the word, and they are lifesavers in every sense of the word. I do know a lot of organizations who work with the service dog industry. I mean, I'll say it's an industry because obviously they're breeding the dogs for that purpose and training them, but they're not only breeding, they're also training dogs who are in shelters, and there are more and more situations like that happening. And I know that they work really hard to place the dogs into really good homes. In fact, my brother-in-law and sister-in-law adopted a dog who had been a former service dog, but who was older and couldn't continue being in that role, but who was a fantastic companion. And he lived out his life with them in a very loving family. So I don't think everything's always black and white. It's not my place. I think there are a lot of issues. I mean, I think the underlying issue for sure is that animals are not here for us to do with as we please. I think that's a foundation that we can still build a society on while understanding that there are gray areas, because not every relationship with animals is necessarily an exploitative one. I don't believe that every single one is. I believe that we are so firmly connected with animals, and we have been for thousands and thousands, millions of years. I mean, we have been for a really long time, and we're integrated, and not every relationship is exploitative. So I think that's my answer. You're welcome. Nancy says, what do you think about trying to start a little vegan restaurant in a small town where the lives of most revolve around meat, potatoes, etc.? I've had many people ask for repeats. Nancy, are you talking about, are you asking my advice specifically, or, so when you say I've had many people ask for repeats, I'm not sure what you mean. Just give me a little more information if you can. Of my dishes. sorry, there it is, of my dishes, but don't know if I'd be shooting myself in the foot. Have a good job that I hate. Just ask me what you think. Look, we live once, right? Any time we make a business decision or an investment, it's a risk. It's a risk, and I admire anybody who takes a risk and does it. It's a risk no matter what we do. The job you have right now, you may not have forever. Tomorrow, something could happen and we may not have what we have today. It's just the way it is. So I think, shooting yourself in the foot, kind of like what I just said about Chloe. No matter what you do, you're going to learn something from it. No matter what you do, you're going to get something out of it. No matter what you do, you're going to have experience that's going to help you with the next endeavor that you decide to try. So I would say if you are serious about doing it, though, I would do it with a plan. I would work with business entities that help you. There are a lot of, women-owned businesses, like networking, like business networking, resources where you live, and do it with a real plan, do the research. But you can also dip your toe in. You can also start with like a cottage food industry where you're, maybe selling to local cafes, or you can do some stuff at the farmer's market. You can do a pop-up. I mean, there are a lot of ways these days to dip your toe into doing food-related endeavors without full-on buying, starting with a restaurant, because that can be really scary, right? There's a lot of risk, and there's a lot of investment. There's a lot of work that goes into it. So I would say definitely don't be afraid. If fear is the thing that's stopping you, then that's not a good enough reason to not do something. There's got to be a better reason than that. But if you are serious, do the research that's required, get a business plan together, be really smart about it, but you can also dip your toe in by doing it on a smaller scale, like pop-ups. Pop-ups are very popular these days, especially here. Let's see. Vita, did I get everybody? Vita says, how do you respond to the overpopulation argument? I find many around me tend to throw it out there in response to my veganism. Also, huge fan. Your podcasts have empowered me in my new lifestyle. I love it, Vita. Thank you so much. Are you talking about overpopulation of people? Give me more, Vita. Allison said if we stopped breeding them for food, there wouldn't be an overpopulation issue. Are you talking about, yeah, so I just want to make sure that we're talking about, you're talking about the overpopulation of other animals. You're talking about the animal, like the people who say that if we stopped eating animals, we would be overrun with cattle, because that's the problem. Is that what you're saying? I just want to make sure you're not talking about overpopulation of people. Again, you can win the cheese trap, but only if you leave a review of Animology at Animology Podcast on iTunes. It's very simple. It's very simple. And then you are eligible to win a copy of the cheese trap. But it's for the U.S. Overpopulation of animals. Yeah, Vita, I have podcasts on this, and I do have a video on it as well on YouTube. They're not worried about that. That's not the problem. It's not the problem. They're trying to find a way to make an excuse to continue eating animals. They don't really care because that's not the issue. Because what they're doing is distracting us from the issue, which is we have over 10 billion animals in the United States alone. Obviously, just as many around the world, that we confine for killing. Like, we bring them into the world only to kill them. That's the problem. There is inherent violence in that. We have a system of violence because we are basically paying people to kill every second of the day. That's the problem. The problem is the culture of violence that we are creating in an industry that is driven by killing. That's the problem. The problem isn't that in some hypothetical universe, if everyone went vegan overnight, all of a sudden the streets would be run by the animals who escaped. It's hypothetical. It's irrational. It's not going to happen. So what we need to do is not get sidetracked and derailed when people start talking about it. You can say what Allison said. You can say, well, if we stopped breeding them, we wouldn't have so many animals. You can say that, but that's still not speaking to what the issue is. So when we say, I'm vegan because I don't want to hurt anybody and because I don't want to support this violent industry and I don't want to hurt animals. And they say, but if everybody stopped eating animals, we'd be overrun with them. The answer isn't, it's not even to speak to that. The answer is, no. That's not the issue. The issue is, I'm vegan because I don't want to support a violent industry. This is a violent industry that's marked by killing, that's characterized by killing. Does that make sense? So that's kind of the answer I give to that, is to stay on track with what the issue is and not get derailed with hypothetical arguments. So that's my answer. Yeah, exactly, Nancy. Writing my review tonight. Thank you, Gina. I truly love animology and food for thought changed my life. Thank you. In my night. You just made my night. Allison said, I just tell people that if we didn't eat fruits and vegetables, they would take over the world. They'd be falling out of buses, popping up at your house, overrunning schools. That's very funny. Look up CAFO's feedlots. They don't breed that way in nature. Cattlemen want you to believe that bull, right? Of course. It's just another excuse. And Christine says, it makes me sick, the killing of innocent animals. And Vita says, thank you. I appreciate your response. Look for that in the podcast. Yeah, and I think I do have a YouTube video on that as well. I'm pretty sure I do. In the Vegan Point of View series I was doing over at YouTube, I believe I speak to that. Whenever we get the hypothetical questions from people, what would you do on a desert island? What about plants? Don't they feel as well? I mean, if I get these questions, to be honest, on any of my social media accounts, I just ignore them because they're not really interested in a discussion or a dialogue. If someone asks me that in person, of course, I might say to them, are you serious? Like, are you really asking that question? And on one hand, it forces them to say, no, I'm just kidding. No, I'm just kidding. I know, but seriously, what about X? So it kind of forces them to be authentic in their asking. It also, if they say, yes, I'm serious, then I'll say, well, that's not the issue. The issue is not that we're going to be overrun by animals. The issue is that we are breeding billions of them and confining them, and we're supporting a culture of violence. So let's solve the problem at hand, not some hypothetical problem that's not even in front of us. That is my opinion. I agree with you. I don't want to contribute to the brutal killing of animals. Right on. Michael says it's one of the dozen things you'll hear over and over and over, overpopulation of animals. Good news is you'll just have to come up with your own answers to this dozen, and you'll be set to debate any anti-vegan in the world. It's true. The good thing is that there's only a handful of these same questions. I've never gotten one that I'm like, I've never heard that before. That's so unique. Gina says, I get a ton of humans are top of the food chain. It drives me crazy, but how do you kindly respond? And then Melissa says, what are your thoughts on the new laws? Sorry, don't you hate autocorrect? I hate autocorrect. That allow hunting wolves and hibernating bears in Alaska. Well, Melissa, I was encouraging people for weeks to contact their members of Congress to encourage the House and then the Senate to vote against that. I think it's horrific. I think it's despicable. I think it could very well set a precedent for allowing more states to do the same thing, to basically get the federal lands out of the federal government, which is what they want. So I think it's really scary, to be really honest. I think it's really scary. And we need to make sure that we're on top of these particular bills. Now, it's not a law yet. I don't think Trump has signed it yet. He will, no doubt. I have no doubt he's going to sign it. I'm also supporting more and more environmental organizations who are protecting wildlife, because there will be lawsuits as well. So, but once they make this change, it's absolutely despicable. When's part 2 with Carol Adams? Not on the schedule yet, but I think that would be awesome. So Gina was asking about top of the food chain. the top of the food chain, it's another one of those things that people want to immediately use to take the focus off of them. So it's a way to deflect. They don't really walk around thinking that they have to consume animals in order to support their position at the top of the food chain. So that's just kind of my I want to make sure we understand that, because here you go. I'm going to say this and listen to me loud and clear. One of the things we're going to be talking about in the event that I'm going to do in late August that I hope you can all come to is we're going to be talking about framing our values. So this is the stuff we're seeing happening right now. The way it's happening in politics right now is a perfect example of when Trump puts something out there and it's a lie and it's not true and it deflects from what he's doing. The worst thing people who disagree with him can do is use his frame and keep repeating it, right? And respond to it. Because what you do is you keep that frame alive. So when people say we're on the top of the food chain and we start responding to the food chain argument, we're basically reinforcing that frame. So what we need to do is understand what is underneath that. What are they actually saying? They're not really walking around beating their chests and saying that I am, some are, but I don't think the majority are. It's just another way to deflect what they're actually contributing to. And that's what we have to stay focused on. So one of the things I talk about in my work, and I have for 20 something years that I've been doing this work, is focus on compassion and focus on the truth and focus on the compassion and the values that that person that you're talking to has and the values that you share, because that's where you're going to get to what they really care about. So if they start talking about the food chain and you keep talking about, but this isn't about it's because it's not even a chain. It's only a chain if you look at it like a chain. It's not a chain. It's not the way the ecosystem works. But if you go into, this is about violence against animals. This is about an unnecessary act that is arbitrary, that is unnecessary, that is inherently cruel. When we know that we thrive on plants, we're doing something unnecessary that doesn't reflect how we really think. That's what we have to focus on. But if we start focusing on all of their arguments, we're just reinforcing them. Why do you think that we have to keep answering these questions over and over again? Because we keep reinforcing them. And I've done it too. I mean, my vegan point of view is all about here's the question we get and here's the answer to it. I get it. But we need to, when we hear these questions from people, focus on what it is that is really at issue. The issue is not the food chain. The issue is not the hypothetical overpopulation of the animals we stop killing. The issue is not that plants have feelings. Those are all deflections away from the real issue. Does that make sense? And then Michael says, I do have some solid answers to all these questions from anti-vegans. I do. So if you go into my YouTube channel and go to the vegan point of view playlist, you'll find them there. And then of course you see them also in the podcast. And then of course there's also Mind If I Order the Cheeseburger and other questions people ask vegans, which is really fabulous as well. So sorry, that was a long answer. So yeah, Nancy called your about SJ18 numerous times. Guess what? My senator voted yes. Well, then they just lost your vote, Nancy. It sounds like he just lost your vote, and he should know that. Make sure he knows that. Make sure you've sent a postcard. Make sure you've sent comments. You can send a few postcards, but let him know that, I don't know when he's up for re-election, but that because of that issue, he just lost your vote. The other thing we're going to be talking about in the weekend that I'm doing in August is we're talking about political engagement. So we just started a PAC here in Oakland called East Bay Animal PAC, PAC standing for Political Action Committee. And the entire point of a PAC is to leverage the resources that we have as individuals collectively to be able to influence the legislators who will get voted in or not based on their record on animal votes, and also really just positioning all of the issues from an animal perspective so that they know that if they're going to look at legislation or consider passing legislation that in any way affects animals, they're going to remember those animal people who are not only supporting them for their friendly animal stance, their animal friendly stance, but also working to get them out because of any anti-animal stance. They're going to start paying attention. So do not underestimate the power you have as a constituent, but also as a supporter. They do pay more attention to those who support their campaigns. I'm sorry, but it's true. And that's what having a PAC is going to do, is leverage that. Of course, you can do that just on your own as a constituent as well. So we're going to be talking about that in August 26th here in Oakland. So what are your thoughts? Oh, we already did that. We already did that. Eddie says border wall will cause more animal extinction. Migratory animal species don't understand human borders. Absolutely, Eddie. Big deal. Big deal. So again, letting our legislators know that we're against the wall is really important, but letting our legislators know that we're against the wall because of human and non-human animals. They need to hear from people. There are so many times I've called and they've never heard it from that position before. They've never heard it from that perspective before. I have people who say, I don't even need to call Barbara Lee. Barbara Lee is, an incredibly progressive, liberal Democrat here. She's actually my representative in my district here in the House of Representatives in California. She is the only person who voted against the Iraq War. So that's Barbara Lee. So people will say, well, she already believes what I believe. She doesn't need to hear from me. Yes, she does. And especially from the perspective of the animals. I don't think she's getting a lot of calls from people saying, we have to oppose this wall for this reason, for that reason. And by the way, for the animals whose migratory patterns will absolutely be negatively impacted if we approve this wall, if we build this wall. Now, I will also say that my city of Oakland has already passed, the city council has already passed, that they're not going to be working with any companies who are in any way going to be associated with building this wall. And more cities are going to be doing this. There's a real fight with this wall. Most of Congress isn't going to give him the funds to build this wall, but he might use this as a way to say, if you're not going to, I'm not going to work with you. This is going to be a long fight, but we need to make sure that our voices are heard, that our voices are heard on behalf of animals. And I have to go in a couple minutes, but I'll take a few more questions as long as you go and write your review of Animology. So you can win the book, The Cheese Trap. So go write your review of Animology over at Animology Podcast at iTunes. Christine says, would you consider offering the August event online somehow? I'm not able to get down to Oakland, but would love to be there. I'm going to see what I can do, Christine. All those things just make it more work and make it more, it requires more resources. I will see what I can do. It's not off the table. So absolutely. And thank you for that reminder. And Dave says, people are so afraid to consider a life that avoids killing, eating, wearing animals. They will find any excuse to maintain the status quo. Exactly. The meat and dairy industry is doubtless perpetuating myths and lies to keep people buying their products. Vegans are looked at as anti-establishment hippies. Weird. I think that's changing a little bit, Dave, but it's true. It's true that the industry is doing that, but people, you kind of said it. If I could distill what you just said into one word, it would be afraid. Because I think that is absolutely what it comes down to for people. They're afraid of not being part of the status quo. We can pretend that we're all independent individuals. We are collective species who thrive in the social context, period. So what other people think matters. And so when people contemplate doing something that's out of the status quo, it's really frightening. It's change that people are afraid of. It's the unknown that people are afraid of. It's doing something different that people are afraid of. It's what people are going to think that people are afraid of. So again, if we understand that the people who are making the decisions to keep doing what is the status quo, i.e. eat animals, wear animals, go to shows where animals are exploited, it's not because they're sadistic and don't care and are evil and lack compassion and lack empathy. It's because they're afraid, because they don't have someone telling them how to do it differently, but in a way that's going to be heard, not in a way that's going to be judgmental. And that's, again, why I see all of what we can do as being a guide for people, being a conduit for people, for the information for people to be able to hear it. But we have to look through the lens of compassion when we're looking at what people are hearing and help them position their perspective so that they recognize that the industries are the ones who are biased toward them buying their product versus the vegans being biased towards what? I mean, we don't gain anything. If my neighbor becomes vegan, I don't gain anything. I don't put a notch in my vegan belt. And I think that's what people also get a little afraid of, that they think there's going to be a win. That's not a win for me. So if we can just step back, take a breath, look at it objectively, and help others look at it, like we calibrate people, that we as vegan advocates can recalibrate people. Because what we want them to do is not listen to us. I don't want them to listen to me. I don't care if people listen to me. I want them to look through the lens of their own values and truth. And so that they'll recalibrate to go, wait a second, they've been lying to me all this time. This is a lie. I've been manipulated. I don't want to be anymore. I'm going to change my mind, and thank you for helping guide me. But does that make sense? I hope that makes sense, because I just went on about that. Nancy says we have a humane Pennsylvania pack. Awesome. Very informative and strong, but Republicans took all by a landslide, and this guy will be here for another 6 years. That's too bad, Nancy. That is really too bad. We'll keep working with, it's not too late to keep working with, those who are in your Congress, in your city council, obviously in your state, office, in your federal office, but it's not too late. There's always work to be done. There's so much work to be done, and we can do it all the time. Michael says, do you try to call representatives during a time when someone will answer, or do you think it's okay to leave a message? Yeah, I try to get a staffer. I prefer to get a staffer because I also want to hear from them about what my member of Congress or city council member, what their position is on the issue that I'm calling about, to make them accountable. So I do feel like it's a little better to get somebody. And Michael says, y'all, I did my review and I won a book. She's not kidding. It's true. Michael won the book. Michael won Meatless. I have to go as well. So Dave, thank you. Nancy, Michael, everybody who's joined me today. Thank you all. I'm going to go meet my girlfriend. We're going to go to Millennium, and then I'm going on a plane tomorrow, and I will be in New York. So I hope to see some of you in New York on Sunday. I hope to see you over at iTunes writing a review. I hope to see you over at my website letting me know if you're interested in the August event. I'm going to sign the papers and leave a deposit when I get back. So I want to hear from you. It's going to be a really helpful event. I know the last one was, and a lot of connections were made, and I think that's what's really important as well. Thank you, Tina and Victoria. Thank you all so much. And again, go to ColleenPatrick-Goudreau.com, join the mailing list, and get your free Joyful Vegan starter guide. And take care. And Gina, I'll see you over the weekend. Thanks, everybody. For the animals, this is Colleen Patrick-Goudreau. Yay, Krista. Thanks, everyone. You're welcome. You're so sweet. Oh my God. Your hearts and your love is coming in, and how can I hang up on that? Thanks, everybody.